The Twitch camera is looking very odd. The Twitch camera is looking really strange. Do you see how you're, like, overlapping? Is that normal? Is that what we want? No, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I see what you did. You're making our both of our faces the same size, and that makes sense. Hey, everyone. Greetings. Welcome. We're excited to have you here. Yay. This is my first time doing a podcast, so forgive me if I'm slightly, like, I don't know.
Okay, I
It's
think
me.
everything's good
It's
now.
cool.
Yeah, now we're both not muted, so that's good.
Okay. Yay. This is excellent. Okay. See if I can
All
pop out of
right.
chat here.
Hello,
I can just do
everybody.
it.
Welcome, welcome.
Awesome. Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you here. I want to get some people from my Discord. Come on, people from Discord. Come on in. Say hi if you're from my Discord.
All right, get my coffee in the right spot. And I think we are good to go.
Mm,
We'll still give it maybe one more minute. I like to go for 5 minutes before I do anything.
sure, makes sense. Yeah, I'm just experiencing the rains in Gleba. It's fine. You know, it's a bit wet here, but we got our cranes functioning, as you see.
Yes, the Gleba crane. Those things look so cool.
They do. This has got to be my new favorite machine in all of Factorio. That's why I have like this video and I put it behind my head whenever I do like a Factorio FFF review like I did just
Yeah,
yesterday. Yeah, I got to have the crane, man. It's
that's
like the
awesome.
coolest building ever.
Yeah, I should consider an animated background too for Factorio stuff. I hadn't thought about that actually.
Mm.
So that's a good idea.
Yeah, I even have like my own end screen that has Factorio. Well, I've got different ones actually. I've got some with belts, some with biters, different
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I use for the end screen, you know, for the YouTube, like here are the
Yeah.
credits and click
Yeah,
on
I
my
have a
links, please.
GIF
Yeah.
for the credits as well, but I hadn't thought about it for like just
Mm.
a background for the video.
Yeah.
Catherine is getting farmed. The crane is farming you.
Right. Oh no, I'm losing brain cells at times. Ah.
It's farming your
Oh man.
ideas.
I know, rough times.
Okay.
Wait, did that hose just move?
The hose on the thing?
The one that's is it this side? That hose up there? When the thing No.
I think it's just part of
Okay.
the animation, yeah.
Okay, okay, I thought it, like, wiggled or something as it, like, hit the the other extremity of its rotation. Okay, never mind. It's all good.
Yeah. All right, I think we're good to go. You ready?
Cat. Yep,
All
got a
right.
new cat. Okay, struggling cat. Cat is struggling. Say hi. Oh
Hi,
dear.
Cat.
Cat, can you chill? This is Emma. She's
Emma
one
wants
that
to
just
escape.
stalks. Yeah, just slightly. She didn't intend to be caught. She was running quite fast, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm faster than the cat today. Alright, there we go.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Factory Must Grow, episode 17. I'm Krydex, and today we are joined by none other than KatherineOfSky. Catherine, how you doing today?
Hey, how are you? Doing great.
Awesome to hear. For those who don't know, Catherine is a content creator focusing mostly on the factory and city builder type strategy games, and you can find all her stuff on YouTube. What have been some of your favorite games recently that you've played?
Oh gosh, many of them. I'm really addicted to Traveler's Rest, which is like a farming kind of Stardew Valley kind of game. Loving Shapes 2. That is a really nice upgrade from Shapes 1. Um, and yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun. And the car manufacture game, that turned out to be interesting. It needs some work, but that was really fun to play.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard about that one. Interesting.
Oh. You should check it
So
out. It's
today
good.
on the cast, we'll start with another mod spotlight. As usual, we'll discuss the Factorio Friday facts, and we'll talk about some Shapez or Shapes or Shapes, however we pronounce it too. And
Shapes.
yeah, I
Because you're
like to
literally building shapes. So
I like to
yeah.
pronounce the Z. It's satisfying for me for whatever reason.
Okay.
And then we'll chat about Factorio stuff. So before we dive into the show, I did want to thank the show's patrons and supporters. The show is made possible by you, the listener. So I wanted to shout out some of the new patrons that have joined since the last podcast. Edison EF and Bulby. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast and the Krydex channel. And moving on to the mod spotlight. Today we're going to talk about Factory Search, which is a mod made by Zoramuth, however you pronounce that, about 2 years ago. It has 67,000 downloads, which I think is criminally underrated for what this mod does. Catherine, do you want to talk a little bit about Factory Search?
Oh man, I can't believe it took me so many years to find this mod, but it
Me
is
too.
absolutely fabulous. Basically, it allows you to search for anything within your factory, whether it's products, whether it's machines, whatever. And it will tell you, like, say you're looking for green circuits. I don't know why. We should all know where they're being built, but it doesn't matter. You're looking for green circuits, you can find where it's being produced, which machines are making it, if it's in a requester chest, if it's in a storage chest, if it's in a regular chest. All of these different kinds of areas that you may not know where it is, including all of those storage chests that never quite get emptied. You know, if you need to recycle stuff, it's such a good tool, especially for big mod packs like conversion mods, like Bob's Angels, that kind of thing, where you have many items, and it's like, where did I put that thing? So it's really great for searching for stuff.
Yeah, and I really like that you can also search for factory buildings that are already placed. So it's like, oh, which,
Mhm.
if I'm upgrading something from tier 1 to tier 2 and I want to replace all of them and I can't remember where all of them are, you can just search up that building and it shows a little arrow, like you can click on a
Mhm.
specific one and it'll
Oh
walk you
yeah.
right to it, which is super handy.
I
Yeah.
love that part. I know when Matthias and I were playing C Block, it was like, okay, where did I put that latest thing again? And sometimes you might think, oh yeah, I want to find the product. But if the product hasn't been made, like if you don't have all of the prerequisites yet, it isn't actually functioning. But Factory Search will let you find the building where it's supposed to be made, and like you said, just follow the green arrow and you can see exactly where you're making it.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm trying to remember. I should have gone back and looked. There was an FFF recently. Recently, it was like months ago by now. But they're adding something like that to Vanilla
Yeah.
Factorio, and I'm not sure if which functionalities it has. I think it has the ability to look at. You can search by recipe. And so I
Hmm.
think you can maybe search by like where is it being made and where is it
Right.
being used. I think you can do both of those, but I don't know if you can do the inventory search, which is one of the things I
Right.
really like about factory search. Factory
Yeah.
search.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't
But
remember what functionality it has either, so
yeah,
oops, I
I'm
should have looked that
excited
up.
for Space Age because I feel like we've gotten so many things spoiled that our brains can only hold like 10% of it at one time, and we're going to be re-surprised by so many features we get to see.
Absolutely.
It's going to be great. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's our mod spotlight. I want to talk about the recent FFFs a little bit before we dive into our main topics because one of them was a little bit shorter and, I won't say boring, but, lighter on the content. And then the other one was very exciting. So FFF
Uh-huh.
423 was on research info, tooltips,
That was the
and
exciting one, right? Like, totally the exciting one. Oh my god, we get to find out how long our research is gonna take and pin people in multiplayer.
it is
I knew
very
you were looking
exciting.
for those functions. You told me that you've never done any multiplayer, so that's clearly at the top of your list.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm a big multiplayer guy. For everybody knows. No, for whatever reason, I just can't like the idea of multiplayer Factorio. For me, it would only work if I was always online at the same time as the other people, and nobody was ever online without the other people. Like it would have to be like a
Well,
group we're playing together thing.
but yeah, that's how you do it, mostly.
Well, a lot of people do like servers that are up constantly, and so some people are logged in when other people aren't. And I don't know if I could handle like showing up and the base being different. That would break my brain.
I mean, I've done that before, like in my early days of Factorio before I did any content creation, and it's okay, but I think that Factorio in its vanilla state, it's too small of a game. So if one person plays for a few hours while others are offline, I mean, they might build halfway into the end game. So you're like, what the heck happened here? But
Yeah.
I prefer to play and I play usually in small groups if I play multiplayer, other than my crazy, streaming stuff. But I play with like one person or maybe at the most four people at the same, and we all play at the same time. So it's we discuss stuff, we do things together, and that's a lot of fun that way.
Yeah, that's the way I would want to do it too. That makes sense. So yeah, in this FFF, they talked about showing the science production average over like the last 10 minutes, which is handy because, previously you would have to search up your research packs in the production tab and or consumption tab, and it wasn't always equal. So now it's telling you like what the actual science output is after taking into account the productivity of labs and stuff, which I think is handy. And they're also what was the other feature? Oh, the ability to add pins for your alerts. So if there's a certain section of wall on one planet that's struggling with defenses and you want to make sure you keep an eye on it, you can pin that location, and I think you can hover over it and it'll show you like the camera view of that location without actually going there in map view. So that's super handy.
Right. Yeah, that seems really, really quite convenient, I have to say. We've had a bug, Matthias and I, where he can't see where I am at all. I can see where he is, like, especially if you zoom out, you can see the person's name on the map, but he can't see me at all. So I'm hoping that will help with that. And we're not sure if it's a bug or if it's some kind of a weird setting that's in the server settings or not, but he just can't see me. So I get to
That
be
is super
stealth.
weird.
I'm
Yeah.
Ninja Catherine.
That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, that FFF was pretty short. That was the main thing, and then Catherine mentioned the last thing you can do is you can click on multiplayer stuff and see where people are. That's about it. So the next FFF, however, has a lot of content spoiled and an exciting content, which is the Gleba Pentapod enemies. So, Catherine, do you want to talk about these a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Being out here in the rain, every now and again, I catch a glimpse of these things. They are really interesting. They're kind of based on our Spidertrons, except they have 5 legs. And they gave us a couple of different names, and I'm really loving the name Starfeet. So I'm going to call them all Starfeet. They're all pentapod enemies, meaning they have 5 feet or 5 legs. The smallest ones are kind of like mini biters. They don't seem very terribly damaging, except they can swarm you. So you might want to get some Tesla towers to take those out. And then the medium ones are called something Striders or
Striders?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're a little bit more spindly, and they can throw the mini ones at you, which is kind of interesting. They can also those can walk over walls just like Spidertrons can. And then the scariest ones are Stompers. And if you haven't checked out that video on the FFF, oh man, do those tank a lot of damage. So yeah, those are pretty scary. They can stand on you, so don't get underneath them. That would be like unideal. I don't know how much damage they do. I don't think they gave us like a damage readout on those guys, like if you got stomped.
Right.
Um, but they do look dangerous for sure. The
Yeah,
only
it'll
thing
be
that I'm worried.
interesting. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to
So
say it'll be interesting to see like which armors they have, because right now, biters are the only things we fought, and they have kind of mostly armor against bullets and not a ton of armor against electricity stuff, like lasers and whatnot. And I'm curious if the types of defenses, like explosive versus fire versus bullet versus laser, I can't remember. Is there another damage type? Acid, I think, is technically
nuclear,
in there.
yeah, acid. Is nuclear a separate type? Or
I
is that
don't
just
think so. I
explosion
think that's
damage?
just explosive plus kinetic or whatever.
'Cause
But yeah,
man,
I'm curious to see if their
radioactive.
armor types are different. And so we kind of like maybe one set of enemies is actually really resistant to lasers, and that way we can't just build a wall of laser turrets on that planet. I don't know.
Well, the one thing that kind of was not ideal for me is they're like, "Hey, we're gonna start out. So even if you come here with no defenses, you can still win." And it's like, oh, okay. So just like Novice, right? So
Right.
I'm hoping they evolve into better things. Now we have seen that the Striders can fling the mini enemies over walls. So what that means is, well, they can walk over walls to begin with, So they can actually fling them past your defenses. So what I'm thinking of is like having several walls. So have like a wall, lasers, wall, lasers, wall, lasers. So you have like these different containment areas to make sure that you're killing everything.
Yeah, it'll be
But
interesting to make sure how we can clean up all the little. I'm calling them face huggers because that's what they remind me of because they've got like little tentacles and they're
right,
tiny and they
right.
swarm around. But
Sure.
yeah, one other thing that they've spoiled in this, which I thought was interesting because it was mostly about enemies, but they talked about one production thing, which is that the egg rafts, which are there are these things
Hmm.
in the swampy areas that hold the little face hugger things.
Right.
Um, you can also collect eggs from those, and that's what you need to create biochambers. And
Right.
so one of your production buildings on Gleba actually requires you to collect these egg rafts, and you can automate it, they said, in a risky automation. So like I'm guessing the eggs are going to have spoilage, and if they spoil into living enemies.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a
That
really
seems.
interesting usage of the spoilage mechanic.
Yeah. Oh my God. Enemies coming right from my pocket. They will eat you
Exactly.
alive. So
Yeah.
yeah, they got to keep track of that for sure. Don't keep them in your pocket. Put them in a chest immediately, or
Yeah.
craft them into the biochambers. That's going to be interesting. I like this. So this is very much like the old Factorio alien artifact thing. I don't know if you were around back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and if for people who were not, basically it was a mechanic where you had to use alien artifacts, the detritus from aliens or alien eggs, whatever you want to call them, to make science, which is a never-ending prospect. So here we're only making a building from them, which makes them a lot less needed to gather like millions and millions of them. So I'm really glad to see that it's kind of a finite amount that you need to gather rather than like an ongoing
Right.
consumption thing.
Yeah, and I like that it's also just for building the buildings, and once you've built the buildings you need, you can kind of stop collecting them. It's not like you need to farm them infinitely. So you can
Right.
automate it if you want to build a huge factory, I guess, but it's probably also possible to just go out and hunt enough egg rafts to get what you need for, a
Hmm.
while at least.
Right.
And they also mentioned there's 3 tiers of each of these enemies. So right now, like we have small, medium, large, and behemoth. We've got 4 tiers of biters. These enemies only have 3 tiers. I'm guessing the first tier is kind of equivalent to roughly medium enemies. It'll be interesting to see how quickly the
Are they
higher tiers
tiers?
get.
I think there are three different enemies that have different evolution for each of them. That's what I understood. Because
Yeah,
remember
so
they
there's
said,
3 tiers of each enemy, right? Is that not what
oh,
I
right,
said?
right. Okay. Sorry, I understood it differently. You probably did say that.
Yeah. So it seems like, once the evolution goes up, then we'll be facing the harder enemies, kind of just like on
Mm,
novice for that. Which
yeah.
do you want to talk about the new pollution mechanic ish,
Yeah.
new
The
ish?
new pollution is not pollution. This is like come hither snacks, is what we got. We are making good foods for these animals, and they are loving that we're making free food for them. So they sniff it in the air. It's like food on the wind, and they come hither and try to kill our food making production. It seems like they wouldn't kill the rest of the factory that's not producing any of this kind of lovely smelling stuff. It's like having a bakery down the road. Trust me, I know
Mm-hmm.
what that's like. It's very difficult. But so it's not a we hate you because you're polluting our atmosphere. It's very much we love you because we want to steal your snacks. So
Yeah, and they're gonna aggressively steal your snacks.
indeed.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it spreads the same way, but it's only produced by those things that are processing the all your plant
Right.
matter and all that. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes how we build bases. I'm thinking in my head like, oh, you could build all the stuff that processes the bio stuff and defend
Hmm.
that smaller area really well, and then the rest of your base could be a little ways away and have zero
Hmm.
defenses because they're not going to attack that.
Indeed.
I don't know if that'll work or
That's how
not,
it sounds
but
like.
it
Yeah,
seems like it.
seems like that way. But I'm definitely going to put in some just defensive turrets here and there in the main base, just in
Yeah,
case.
yeah,
Because you
you
never
can.
know, they might wander through the other side of the base to go get your snacks.
Well,
I
and
don't
the
know if they would
curiosity I
be
have is if they'll attack. Like, even if they wander
right.
through the other side of the base, will they just pass on by because they don't care?
True. Very true. You don't know if they're going to aggro your regular factory buildings because they don't
Yeah,
have snacks inside.
exactly. They're not a vending machine, so they don't care.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the new FFF. Pretty exciting stuff. I'm guessing they'll spoil the enemies on the other planets as well in the coming weeks. Now that they've kind of
Hmm.
started down that road, and I'm excited to see what those enemies are. Particularly, I don't know why, but I feel like Vulcanus is going to have the coolest enemies. Um,
Yeah.
I think volcano planets are always really cool. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of route they take with that, whether it's more of like an actual um like they said in this FFF, they wanted to make it relatable to Earth-like animals.
Hmm.
But on Vulcanus, are they going to make like a sort of a rock monster fantasy creature, or is it going to be also related to some kind of an Earth animal? That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's actually a really good thought. I hadn't, because yeah, in the FFF, which you guys should all go read, it's very good. They talk
Mm,
quite a bit about the design of the enemies, as they do, and they go
mhm.
into how they decided on 5 legs and how they decided on this shape versus that shape, and they have some early drafts of the enemies. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and yeah, like you said, they're going more towards something that is at least something that theoretically could have evolved on Earth rather than just crazy aliens. Though I think they're
Right.
alien enough that it still feels pretty like a pretty broad design space.
I have not seen any giant starfish walking down my street recently. So
Exactly.
I wonder how that would even work because I think a lot of the soft-bodied animals in the ocean are able to survive because they don't have to carry their own weight, you know? So I'm not sure if that would work very well. I wonder if that's a planet that has very low gravity or something, or
Yeah.
maybe they got lots of bones or something. I have no idea. Though
Yeah,
they
I don't.
did give us a diagram. They did give us an anatomical diagram, and I think they do have bones.
Yeah, they
Um,
did. We can
it's
see
fine.
where their brain is and where their eyes are and where they eat. So yeah, that's the new FFF. Let's talk a little bit about Shapes 2, which just released a few days ago, officially into early access. I've
Mhm.
been playing it almost nonstop on my streams too. But what have you thought about that so far?
It's great. There's only one thing that I don't like, and I guess we could get to that first because everything else I love. They really just completely upped the quality of life features to where it's amazing. So maybe I'll just ask you a question. How do you feel about changing floors with belts and stuff? Do you like
With the
that?
belts, I actually really like it. Just the regular belts on the
Okay.
platforms. I don't love the space belt underground thing. That's a little tricky and annoying to build. But I found that the Q and E working
Mhm.
as anchors, at least for me, it's actually felt really natural.
Okay. For me, it feels so awkward, and I'm very dyslexic, so I'm always mixing up the keys. And I feel like I really like DSP, the way it uses just the mouse wheel to go up and down with belts. I really like that a lot better. So I'm hoping that they can introduce a second mode of up and down for people like me who just don't do it very well. It's like every single time I do it, it just gets confused in my brain. I'm gonna have to like, okay, spend an extra second thinking, am I going up or down? And I've tried to change it between, is it E and T? Because Q for me is always going to be the pipette tool, period.
Uh,
That is in every game, including Factorio. Q is pipette tool. So, what I would have liked also is to have a rotating kind of thing, as in, like, I press one key, like E, and it'll go floor 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That would
like
be good too.
cycles through.
It's like cycles through, yeah, like the rotate
Interesting.
key kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So those small complaints aside, it's pretty much a
mm,
perfect game, right? So why
oh,
don't you
yeah,
explain for the
it's
listeners
fantastic.
kind of what is the game? Like, what do you do?
Sure. So one problem I've heard from people is like, "It's too abstract, I don't get it." Well, I have a solution for you. We are interstellar bakers. We're making cookies. Cookies that have many, many shapes and colors and flavors and icings. That is what we were making. And basically, around the universe, you have different kinds of shapes: circles, squares, propeller looking things, spikes, half eaten cookies, different kinds of shapes that are divided into quarters. And you need to manipulate these shapes to get what the bakery desires, or what I guess is the distributor desires, right? We're the bakery. So, whatever the distributor wants, the vortex, you got to make that shape. And that involves cutting pieces apart, sometimes destroying the other half, sometimes reusing the other pieces, painting them with icing, and making them into the correct color combinations and shape combinations that they want. And these shapes can be multi-layers high. I think the highest I've seen so far is like 4 layers high. And it's kind of complicated. But what's really cool about this game is that you have like multi-level goals where, say, you're either doing a shape to progress or a shape for extra credit points, extra research points and stuff. You'll have one shape, say a gray circle. Okay, you ship the gray circle. Well, the next shape is a gray circle on top of a gray square. So then you need a stacker machine. You need to put the gray circle into the top part of the stacker machine so it smushes it down. And oh my God, have you seen the animations where it like smushes? Oh God,
It's
it's
so
so cute. I
cool.
love that. It's hilarious. So then you get all of these things, and there are ratios like in Factorio, but it's super easy because the game tells you. And you can upgrade your belts for different speeds and stuff, but those tooltips tell you how many machines you need for a full belt of production, which makes it really easy to get the ratios you want and get a full belt out. And so you have these different shapes, and then the next shape might be, we want a red circle on top of a red square or whatever, or blue or green or whatever is desired. So it's really cool in terms of like thinking about logistics, in terms of thinking about production and combining these different shapes together to make kind of cool stuff. And I really, really like the progression system because it's like sometimes you need the next shape on the list is just add a square. It's like, okay, easy, done, really super easy. And sometimes it's like, oh dear, brain is breaking. Hello.
Yeah. It's really, the polish on the game is absurd. I feel like it couldn't. I mean, there are still a few tiny quality of life things that I feel could be better, or a few tiny tweaks that I think they can make. But really, I mean, I don't say many games are like the perfect game, but I feel like this is pretty close to being exactly what it wants to be in like the best form of what it could be. Obviously, some people might not like the game, and that's totally fine. But for what the game is, it feels like it's pretty close to being a perfect game. Because you really just get the distilled, like, I'm automating this process and then I'm using this process in the next process. And the unlock, like the milestone tree is really well done, and the upgrades. So you're like, I want to do these side quests, so to speak, so that I can get more research points to make my belts faster. And it's really, I feel like it all builds on itself really well. Nothing feels too difficult or out of the way. They do have a hard mode if you want it to be more difficult. And they have a hexagon mode, which I haven't tried.
Do they? I haven't
Yeah.
seen the hexagon mode. I started straight into hard mode because I'm just like, let's
Oh,
go,
nice.
make it difficult. This is fantastic.
Yeah, but they have a hexagon mode. So there's 6, they're not quadrants anymore, but they're hexants or whatever. And so when you rotate, there's a lot more than just 4 rotations. And that makes it way more complicated. So I'm going to try that out at some point, I think. But it's really interesting.
I don't think I was offered that. After the tutorial, I don't think I was offered like that ability to get the hexagon mode. Maybe is it in a different space or something?
It's you have to start out in hexagon mode.
Okay, gotcha.
So once you do the tutorial in quadrant mode, you get the hard or normal of quadrants. But the hexagon mode is like a whole different start.
Cool. I'm going to do that. That's cool.
Yeah. So all that to say, if you guys are listening and you're interested in automation games in general, which you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, Shapez 2, really great game. Highly recommend checking it out. I think is there still a demo, or is the demo non-existent now? I'm not sure.
I can look. Let me look real quick.
Yeah, because I played the demo a few months back, and just the demo alone was enough to make me know that like I wanted to buy the game. And so some games kind of remove a demo once they're released, but I'm not sure about this one.
I will check. It looks like they removed the demo.
Okay, that's too bad. But it's only $20 on the Steam store in US currency. So that's a pretty good price, I think, for the quality of game that it is. Honestly, I think they could have charged more and people still would have felt it's worth it. Right now, it has 99% positive reviews out of 2,300 on Steam, which is pretty dang good.
That's very good. And I completely agree. It's a great game. I think it's a pretty good price for the game, and it has a lot of content. And it's one of those games that you can kind of play like Factorio in a way, where you can try different stuff and you can have a different game every single time. And it's just fun to do the automation part. So, have you done a lot with circuits, by the way?
I haven't touched them yet, but I feel like there's so much you could do.
I remember in Shapes 1, people were making like everything machines, which are kind
Mm-hmm.
of an interesting idea. So I haven't played with them at all yet in Shapes 2, but it seems like it's another one of those replayability features that I really like about the game. So definitely
Yeah,
worth the
and
money, I
and with
think.
the trains, I feel like there's so much more you can
Oh,
do
the
now with
trains.
shipping things
Oh,
really far and all that. So yeah, it's sweet.
trains. Oh, I can't wait to unlock the trains. I'm almost there, almost to unlocking trains. Very, very short. Probably like one more episode, then I'll have the trains unlocked.
Okay,
And
you're
that's
gonna
going to
love
be
them.
awesome. Oh, man. Yeah.
That's yeah. So moving on from Shapez, Catherine, I am really excited to have you here on the podcast, and we kind of, we've talked about some games already a little bit, but I want to jump back about the who are you? So if you wouldn't mind, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what do you do?
Who am I? That's a really great question. Sometimes I wonder. I've
Don't
I've
we
had a
all?
lot of different things going on in my life. I guess the job I had before this, or career I was a woodworker. And then I had some issues and I went to a doctor and he prescribed me medications and I took one pill and I have permanent migraines since then. So it's not great. I couldn't do my previous job as a woodworker because you can literally get killed on the daily, on minute to minute by basis, actually. So the only thing that happened that I could do was be a YouTuber. And I kind of fell into it by accident. I had a friend who was like, "Oh, we should record some Factorio." I'm like, "No, no. I don't even like to hear my own voice. Stop this." No, no, no. No, no, no. You'll like it. No. I was
Oh,
really
I'm sorry, you cut
resistant
out for a second.
initially.
Could you say that again?
Oh, sorry. So I had the friend. Okay, I'll just tell you the whole story, starting from the beginning. I had a friend, and he wanted to play some Factorio, and I didn't like the sound of my own voice. I was really resistant to recording with him, and he's like, "No, no, no, it'll be great. You'll like it." And I'm like, "No, stop!" But he kind of got me into it, and then he went back to school to university, and I was like, "Oh, I'm missing recording. I want to do more." So then I started my Belt Diva series and it just turned into a success. So I was doing YouTube. Well, I've been doing YouTube professionally for 7 years. I've been making my entire income from YouTube. So it's been a hard journey for sure. I work about 16 to 18 hours a day, no joke. I don't get any weekends, no holidays, nothing like that. It's
Wow.
not a good job. Young people out there, YouTube is not a good job. It is a very bad job. But if you have migraines, it's not that bad, because I do get to play games every day. But in the past few years, I discovered that I needed to be back home. I've never really felt at home in America. My parents were European; they were born in Europe, and for whatever reason, America never felt like home. I've been to a lot of places in the world, traveling and stuff, and whenever I came back, it's like, oh, whatever. And then when I went to visit Norway, Scandinavia, I guess in general, the plane just touched down and my heart like exploded with joy.
That's so
And I was
cool.
like, I'm home. I am home." So I was planning to move to Norway for a very long time. And it took many years to get Polish citizenship. So I'm actually a Polish citizen. Took 4.5 years to get that. Long time to wait. And eventually I settled in Sweden. My partner's here. He's awesome. And you know what? He has the sexiest job ever.
What is it?
He's a train engineer.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
No, that's just icing, but he's such an awesome person. I love him very much, and he is I think he's the funniest person I know. He has, like, this really dry wit, man. You can cut your hand on it like a knife. It is so sharp, and, he's really great to be around, and so I had to be with him. So I moved to Sweden in November. I've been here for a while now. I don't know how many months that is. Around 9 months, I guess, or 8 or 9 months, something like that. So yeah, that's who I am. And I actually started a brand new channel called Refreshingly Swedish, where I talk about differences between the United States and Sweden, and I have a cooking show as well. I am the only person who had to invent a cooking show to cook well for herself.
So that was your plan to learn to cook?
That was my plan. Well, I know how to cook, but like I always feel like it's a waste of time.
Mm.
Um, so doing the cooking show, it's like, okay, I can make several portions at once during this cooking show, and I make good recipes. It's not like putting cereal in a bowl or something like that. It's actually really good stuff. And so it's content. So I'm not wasting time. I'm actually able to make content while I'm cooking. It's fantastic. So yeah, I have that going on, and it's been pretty successful. I have a lot of views on that channel because a lot of people are really interested in the cultural differences and stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm really really enjoying that. And so that's who I am. I'm kind of like all over the place, I guess. You were probably wanting to know more about games. That was more like my life story. Sorry.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. So, the next thing I wanted to kind of quiz you on, a question, ask you a
Sure,
question
quiz
about.
me. Go for it.
So I know that you mentioned, you became a content creator because of the migraines and because it was kind of the job that fit kind of where you were health wise.
Right.
Why have you always been into the types of games that you've been playing on YouTube, or did you kind of get pulled into the factory automation kind of management world because of streaming and that stuff?
Well, I think I've always been interested in those kinds of games. Um, when I was young, I mean, I've been playing games since I was 2 years old, so I've played all of them, starting with a Commodore 64 and moving up from there. Back in the day, we didn't really have factory games, other than I did play a game called Free Enterprise. Have you ever? I don't know anyone who's heard of that one. It was kind of
No.
like a low budget title, but it was actually a game about a factory. But the problem was, and this was back in the days where you had games on discs or, discs. And so there was a bug in the game where I couldn't get past like level 2 or whatever and build a bigger factory. It wouldn't let you buy another building. So I was stuck, but I actually loved that game right from the very beginning. And it was funny. I've always loved like the whole factory aesthetic or something. There used to be a store in the US called Service Merchandise. And it was so cool because you'd order stuff from these kiosks around the store. And then you go to the back of the store when you're ready to pick up your stuff because you paid by credit card. It was kind of like futuristic, I guess, because we're talking like 90s, right? And you go to the back of the store and there's a conveyor belt that brings your stuff out.
That's amazing.
So there were people like taking stuff from the conveyor belt and giving it to you. So you had to present your receipt, show that you were the person that paid for it. But it was kind of cool. I've always loved conveyor belts since that time. I don't know what it is, but it's very cool. And so yeah, I don't know. I've always been interested in factories. I like factory things. I'm the kind of person who watches though. It's so satisfying. Those videos on YouTube where you have all of like this factory stuff going on. And so factory games just were natural for me. And I kind of grew past Minecraft. Like that was for younger kids by the time it came out for me. So I never played Minecraft and I still don't like it because you bloody your knuckles punching trees. I don't get that. Like my knuckles need to be clean and not hurting. I need them for using the keyboard and stuff. So it never got Minecraft. It's no, just no. So that was kind of, I think the whole like resource conversion games always appealed to me, like Knights and Merchants, for example, or even games like Caesar and Pharaoh. They had a little bit of resource
Hmm.
conversion where you have, your I don't know, some kind of a fiber hemp that's produced into cloth, which is made into like uniforms for the army, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So those kinds of resource conversion always appealed to me my whole life. So yeah, it's very natural for me to be where I am, and I like a lot of factory games as well as like colony builders and city builders. And just to differentiate, colony builders are where you have individual citizens with individual talents, like RimWorld, where they have different, skill level in certain things, that kind of thing. So really enjoy those as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've always felt like the how it's made kind of shows are so fun, like
Hmm.
getting to watch
Yeah,
everything on those conveyor belts, and it really does give you that satisfaction when you set up your own production lines. It's so cool.
yeah, for
So
sure.
One particular Factorio mod I wanted to ask you about was Renai Transportation. I
Oh
saw a
God.
few videos of you playing that one, and I remember one time you kind of looked at one part of your base, and it was just a pile of items on the
Oh,
ground because
yes.
an inserter had been throwing items for like an hour.
God. Yep.
Was that a fun mod? Did you enjoy that?
That's a hard question to answer because I like the concept of it, but it was so buggy, it really didn't work. So, yeah, we had this inserter flinging things onto a belt, which was expected, that was what you expected to happen. This was a mechanic. And then all of a sudden, it's like, nope, I refuse to do that anymore. And the belt wasn't catching them. Apparently, you're supposed to have a catcher, but it worked before. It worked for hours before that. And all of a sudden, it needs a catcher. And I never update mods in the middle of a playthrough. So I don't know what happened there. But I think it went buggy, and it's just like, nope, we're just gonna spread out in a beautiful mosaic, like a mandala of like stuff on the floor.
Yeah, it was
So
wonderful.
yeah. But the thing that made me rage quit that mod is I had a train leaping situation because you can fling trains as well. And they look very cool, like little rainbows through the air. And my building train went over this and it crashed.
Oh no.
You know what a building train is, yeah?
I assume a train filled with buildings? Or
Sort
like the
of.
one that
So,
goes to an
so
outpost to build your stuff, or
the one that has 5 wagons, each with a different filter on it. That one. Can you imagine that train crashing and recreating it? Took me over an
mm,
hour.
that's
That was
fun.
not great. That was not
Yeah.
great. So that's what made me rage quit the mod. I was like, just no, we're not doing this anymore.
Yep.
I mean, as
Yep.
cool as I love the coolness of it, and actually we get some of that in Shapes too.
Exactly.
Where we get some flinging over belts and stuff like that. You can go over and under, but yeah, we can fling them as well.
It actually
So
was confirmed that the inspiration for that mechanic, and trains can jump in
uh-huh,
shapes, and the
uh-huh.
inspiration for that mechanic was Renai Transportation. The dev confirmed
Really?
that on
Oh,
Reddit.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I really hope that they kind of work on the bugs of Renai. I don't know what the state is in since I played it because it's been a couple years, I think.
Hmm.
But it's such a cool mod, and I would love to see it like unbugified because losing a train is like it's not like losing an iron train. This is like
Right.
losing an hour of lifetime. So yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
now
speaking of Factorio mods, more
Mhm.
recently you've been playing Lunar Landings, which is a fairly new
Yeah,
one, also made by
it is.
Zormuth. And
Yep.
how has that been going? Do you feel like it's a good? It kind of sells itself as a kind of on ramp to Factorio Space Age, since that's coming out here in a
Mm.
month. And do you feel like
Yeah,
it
it's
does
kinda
that
like a
job
practice
well?
mode for that. I haven't played Space Age, but yes, I assume that it
Sure.
does the job well. So yeah, Zoramith is an awesome mod creator. He's also created Freight Forwarding. I don't know if you play that or not, but I
I did
love
play
that
that
mod.
one.
It's so great. It's a really great like intro for people to get into conversion mods. And so because I think there's a lot of mods like Bob's Angels, which is like way too complicated for a first conversion mod. So it's great where we have these like intermediate kind of level things. Anyway, but yeah, Lunar Landings is really fun. So my partner and I are playing that multiplayer, and it's very, very cool because we can split the jobs. I tend to be on Luna, which is the moon's surface, and the way he designed it is pretty interesting. Like it's not just plain lunar. We have some dark spots, we have some lighter spots, we have cliffs that are completely impassable,
Ooh.
and we have some other spots like the what is it called? It's like the top of the cliff, which I think you can't build rails over. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since we played. Um because our schedules haven't really aligned very well. But so yeah, there's all kinds of different things, and like in the dark areas of Luna, there's a whole bunch of rocks. So you definitely don't want to build trains over there because oh my god, your inventory just fills with rocks. I sent 5 spiders to build a train line, and they were all trailing robots because they couldn't get rid of the rails fast enough to have space for the rocks.
That's
So
amazing.
but anyway, and Zoramith is really cool because we talked to him in our Discord, and I'm like, Zoramith, there's like too many rocks because like one rock will give you 36 lunar rocks. 3 rocks will fill an entire square.
Oh,
And you
wow.
cannot put 100 tiles of rail in 3 tiles of rocks, you know what I mean? So it's like you
Mm-hmm.
can't get rid of the tiles fast enough. So he's like, "Oh, I think maybe I'll just reduce the amount of rocks you get from the lunar rocks." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds good. That works." And so he's really willing to hear feedback and kind of adjust things if it feels like weird or wonky. And so it's really nice that he just, is in our Discord and we can talk to him about stuff. So it's really cool. It introduces a lot of different kinds of mechanics. Like you have these buildings called telescopes. I don't know why they're telescopes, but anyway, you have to put them on top of these cliff areas. They only work I mean, that makes sense for a telescope, right? You put
Mm-hmm.
it on the highest area you got, but they produce things. I think there's two main production items that they do. But those are really far away from your main factory, so you have to use space trains, which go really fast. They're really great. They're not monorails, but they have like the bullet train shape. They're really neat, and they use nuclear fuel instead
Nice.
of anything else. So you have to ship a bunch of stuff. And the way the mod is set up is, at first I was like, okay, how do I subdivide my rocket? How do I add filters? No, 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 no. You have a rocket for everything. But it's easy because he's reduced the amount of rocket parts you need for a launch. So you can ship all kinds of things back and forth. We probably have like 20 different items we're shipping back and forth from Novice to Luna and Luna to Novice because our science production is on Novice. But we're producing a lot of parts for that on Luna. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool to learn how to ship stuff back and forth, to learn how to segregate stuff, to learn how to like produce multiple rockets at the same time and how you want to address those challenges. So in multiplayer, I'm doing a lot of the Luna stuff, figuring, all of this different stuff out. And Matthias is just supporting the factory, man. He is a beast. He's just like producing stone and iron and copper, all the things that I don't like to do, to be
The
honest.
the grunt work.
He's taking all, yeah, exactly. He's taking all of that and he's just like, I'm just playing Factorio. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I'm very willing to switch, if he wants to do other stuff, that's cool too. But yeah, it's great to have play with a partner because it is a lot of work solo. It really is because you need a lot more stuff here or produce more of that over there because maybe you need this extra machine for science that requires 200 of some kind of complicated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you really need to kind of grow both bases at the same time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Did you ever play space exploration?
Not yet, not yet. That was
Okay.
supposed to be next on our list, because I don't wanna play that one solo because it's way too much work solo. It's
It's a
way
big
too
one.
much work.
Yeah,
So
I was just curious because I'm guessing there are some similarities, but also some differences, and
mhm,
I'm curious what the differences are between space exploration and lunar landings. It's definitely, it sounds like the rocket logistics are a bit simpler
mhm.
in lunar landings than they are in space exploration, which
Yeah,
is
in
good.
lunar landings, the chief difference that I understand is there's no space platform. You just go directly from Novice to Luna, and in
Right.
SpaceX, as well as the DLC, you're gonna have a space platform where you're gonna be making stuff. So, yeah, I understand that SpaceX is supposed to be a lot more difficult than Space Age. That's what I've heard anyway,
For sure.
but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, even hours wise, a lot of people, it takes them like 300 to 600 hours for space exploration. And it sounded
Hmm.
like with the dev posts we've read in FFFs that the playtime for Space Age, they're trying to get it like 100 ish or even under 100 for maybe like
Hmm.
the average person's playthrough. So that, at least time wise, it might take about a third or less of the time of space exploration. So
Hmm.
that
Yeah,
says something.
yeah, indeed.
So speaking of
Yeah.
space age, with
Mhm,
that around the corner, I've been doing FFF reviews here on the podcast, and I know you've been paying attention to all the FFFs, but we're
mhm.
just talking for the first time now. What are some of the most exciting ones for you that you're like, oh my god, I can't wait for that?
Crane, the crane, the crane, the fruits, all of that stuff. I don't know. For me, the most exciting thing in Factorio is having new content. Because that's why I play complicated mod packs, to be honest, is because I know the vanilla recipes by heart. It's not a problem. They're very easy. Because I mean I've been playing. I have over 3,000 hours in the game, almost 4 now, and it's just I love the game so much that I just want new content. So the most exciting thing is just having those new things. The mechanics are even better just to have like new mechanics, seeing what the devs are coming up with for us, and just kind of experiencing this new journey that we're on. I guess the whole thing is the answer to that question.
That's a good answer, to be honest. So yeah, because yeah, not only are there new mechanics, but there's new content, and not only is there new
Hmm.
content, but there's new quality of life and like tweaking
Yeah,
some of the core Factorio elements, like oh, the map view is going to get better, or the way bots work is going to get better, or the
right.
way you look at your production is going to get better. So it's like literally every element of the game, even the optimizations of the how well the game runs on your computer, like every element of the game they're overhauling. It's so neat.
Yeah.
What specifically, I would like to hear your thoughts on quality, because I feel like that's one of the more
Mhm.
divisive in some ways mechanics that they've come up with, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
It appears that every mechanic they come up with is divisive. There's so much like buzz around everything. I like quality. I think it's amazing. I think because it's completely optional, I think that people should not be divided on this topic. I think if you want to use it, you should use it. For me, I love the more complicated the process, the better. So I am so looking forward to building all of these kind of like buildings and machines and sorters and trying to, recyclers and all of that kind of stuff because that really interests me. I love that whole thing. And then I probably would do quality just for the fun of it. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to rely on it to get, oh, I need, top quality legendary assembling machines. That's not the goal. The goal is to get that quality. It's not actually having the thing itself for me. Though having high quality, like legendary quality suit of armor, power armor,
Yep.
that's probably on the top of the list. Because you can have many reactors, many what you would call them, roboports and stuff, and lasers and stuff. Because we're gonna need those lasers now, lasers
Uh-huh.
and shields.
Legendary
Because
personal laser defense, I might say.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, I love the idea of quality, especially that the devs made it optional because I know there's a lot of casual players who may not be interested. And the devs have already said it's very end gamey, it's very not needed. I mean, I don't think we have unlocked. I think we can only get like one or two quality levels on novice. We can't even get legendary until we've visited a couple of planets.
Right.
So, it's not something that's needed, required, or anything. And I don't know why people would be divided on that unless they just want free stuff. Like they're
I
not
think
willing to grind for it or something. Is that the idea? I don't
No, I
know,
think
but
the division is just kind of questioning whether the mechanic, in terms of, because it drives the player to spend a lot of time working on. Some people don't like the chance of it. Some people feel like it's kind of like too strong to be able to get a legendary of the same thing, and it's like adding too many tiers, so too many different kinds of
Mhm,
items. I personally love it too, so I'm more in your camp, but
mhm,
I do see some of the questions, and I think people are asking like, is this actually going to make the game better, or is it going to like kind of spread it too thin or water it down or make it kind of
mhm.
steer players in a direction that might end up being less fun because they feel like they need to do it. So I think those are good questions. I think it's going to go pretty well, and like you said, it is optional. So if you're just a
Mhm.
hater of the mechanic, which is
Yeah.
fine if you do, you don't have to use it. And it's the same as beacons and modules are right now. There are plenty of
Right.
Factorio players that don't use beacons, they don't use
That's
modules.
true. Yeah.
And yes, their base needs to be bigger because of it, but that's their choice. And quality will be the same thing. So,
Yeah, I think it comes down to personal responsibility, really. Because well, no, because like one of the questions, oh, are they steering in the wrong direction? That's not fun. If it's not fun, don't play it. It's
right.
easy. Just don't do it. I personally find that the most fun. And like I said, it's great that it's optional for people. And as far as chance goes, there is no chance. This is a game like chess where there is no chance. It's kind of like nuclear refining, right? Uranium
Mm-hmm.
refining. It's not a chance. It is a percentage. You get X amount per this many crafts, period. So it's not a chance. For people saying it's chance, it ain't.
Well, no,
And
it is literally a chance. I'm confused on what you're saying a little bit. Like it is a 30% dice roll, and obviously, if you make 1,000 of them, it will average out to 300 over
there you
time.
go. So
But
that's
it
what
is
it is.
actually
It's
a
you
chance.
get the average of the 300 over time. So
Right.
therefore, it's not actually a chance; it's a production percentage.
Yeah, and I agree with
So
that. I think the chance comes in for things like a legendary power armor where you're not gonna automate millions of them, and so whether or
well,
not
but
you
that's
win
the
that dice
idea,
roll
though.
does matter.
I think that's the thing is people are like, oh my god, I have a 1% chance. I've fed it enough to make one. Please let it happen. And that's where people are annoyed because they don't want to feed for millions, but you kind of gotta. I mean, if you want to get that percentage and get a guaranteed thing, you have to feed it materials. And that's all about what Factorio is feeding the factory, right? The
Right.
factory must grow. I see it right behind your head there.
Yep. Yep. The
So I
factory
think
must
I
grow.
think I think that's where people are kind of like they might want it on the first try, and that's where they would get a little bit discouraged perhaps, but that's not what we're doing. That is not the game. The game is the factory must grow. The game is feeding the factory all of these materials. If you don't have enough, then feed it more. Go get more. Go smelt more. Go mine more. I've seen a lot of people. That's one of the things that is bewildering to me. AFK. Why do people AFK this game? It's not an AFK game. If you need more, go get more. I feel like the people who are AFKing are like cheating themselves of gameplay. I get why they do it. They're just, well, I don't want to wait for it. Well, you don't have to wait for it. You just go and get more. You go and mine more.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that was kind of annoying about C Block in many ways is that like you can't go get more. You're just
Right.
locked into this and you have to wait for that. So that was an AFK simulator, which I do not recommend that mod pack, by the way, just FYI. But but like on novice, you can always get more. And the further out you push, the richer the patches, the bigger they're going to be. So it's
Yep.
a game
Yep.
about playing. And I hope people will start to see quality that way to enjoy the journey of it. And yes, whenever you get your power armor, it's going to be a joy and a surprise and delightful. But it may take a while. I think we have to prepare ourselves for that kind of thing. It's very much like waiting for, uranium 235,
Mm-hmm.
which also has a very tiny chance of happening. But it does happen over time. You just set it up, let it run, put several machines. That's another thing, another mistake I see a lot of players making. If they're anxious for stuff, they put like one centrifuge or two. No, no. Let's make 10 at a minimum
Mm-hmm.
or 20, you know?
Yep. Yep.
Then you're going to get your stuff because then you have 20 crafts per period. I forget how many seconds it is, like 10 seconds or something
Yeah, I don't
to make a
remember.
craft of uranium. But like then you're doing 20 at a time and your average of doing 100 and getting whatever it is 0.7% chance or something, 0.7% production ratio we should call it.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
it goes much faster. And so if you set that up early, before you even research the nuclear reactor, you have piles of it around by the time you actually get there. So, I think the key with quality is just build big. If you want to engage the mechanic, you should build big, like we do with the rest of Factorio. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna make it fun, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think, especially with quality, you're so often going to need to automate the core item anyway because
Mhm,
you need so many items to get to a legendary that really, even though it is a chance, it's deterministic with 99.9999% probability. If you feed in
mhm,
10,000 power armors, you'll get your legendary. Yeah, it's just a matter of
right,
time. So,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
one other, with quality, it's interesting because it's kind of this like powering things up. How do you feel about the space platform asteroid collection? That's another kind of mechanic that I found really interesting because in the space platform, you're like you can't build out. You're kind of this like fixed. It's almost like a vehicle, even though it's a platform, and you're inside of it. And I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are on how that's going to feel because I can't tell if I like that or if I kind of don't. For me, I'm not sure if I love the idea of space platforms yet.
I think it's gonna depend. I think I don't know enough about it, to be honest. I don't know what's gonna be needed to be built in space, whether there are certain things that need zero gravity to be produced, as in you have to have these machines on the space platform, or if it's gonna be more like a hub for resource collection and distribution. Say you're getting some plants from Gleba and they gotta go to Vulcanus, and it's more of like a transfer point. I don't know. I think we cannot go directly from planet to planet. I think we need to
Right.
ship things to the space platform first. So I think it's going to be an interesting thing to discover, but I don't think we actually know enough about it now to be able to kind of like figure out what's going on. I don't remember reading that it's a fixed size. Is it really a fixed size, or can
It's
we
not
can we add
fixed,
to it?
but the you have to, I forget exactly how it works, but the bigger it gets, the more
Uh,
you have to fuel it, or the so it's like you're
right. So
constantly
it sounds
playing
like
this game of
SpaceX.
like it can't get too
Yeah.
big,
Right.
but I think that's
I
actually
I
really
think it's
interesting.
I think it's an interesting idea as well, and and the asteroids are kind of fun with those little arms collecting them and stuff. That's really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, those are sweet.
And I think it's going to be just an interesting journey of discovery, because I think a lot of I mean, every person is going to build differently. Some people are going to have a lot of production on the space platform. Some of them, it's going to be just a transfer point. So I think we're going to have to just see how it works, how much space we have. I think there's I mean, I believe there's probably going to be some kind of things that have to be crafted there. So it can't just be like a minimalistic kind of a thing. But yeah, we just have to get more data on what we're going to need to do there in
Yeah,
order
there's
to
so
see
much we
how
don't know.
crowded it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's kind of exciting is even with how much they've spoiled, there's still so much we don't know.
Oh gosh,
And
there's so much we don't know.
I love just the dreaming of all the things, and it's going to be such a fun few weeks when that game comes out.
Indeed. Oh
Few
yeah.
months even.
Years maybe, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
I
the
mean, we're
game's
going to
been
get
great this far.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to also see speedruns, how fast they're going to get those times down. That's going to be interesting, because I've noticed that even though I don't speedrun myself, I do watch speedrunners, and they have some really interesting strategies that I've picked up a lot around the years, or along, oh my God, over time. That's a better way of saying that. Yes, and just the way they move, the way they put things, sometimes their shortcuts and stuff like that is really interesting to watch speedrunners play the game, even for regular playthroughs. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to navigate these different planets, because I'm sure there's going to be speedrunners who are going to take on the DLC and try to get
Uh-huh.
better times with that.
Yeah, that'll be super interesting. Like what order do you do the planets in? How much do you build on
Right.
one planet versus the other? Yeah, that you're right. That's going to be super neat. Do you have
Yeah,
any
that's
other
another.
thoughts on Space Age?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say that I really like that the devs have left it open. Like, to my understanding, you can go to planets in, I don't know if you can go in any order, but you do have a choice of planets when you first start out. And so that's
Yeah,
gonna
the
be
only one
really
that's locked
interesting to
is the
see.
final one. You have to do the
Right.
three kind of middling ones and then the final one.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see how we're going to progress, especially militarily, because we're going to get different weapons on the different planets. Because we saw the Tesla Tower that comes on the planet I can't remember the name of,
Fulgora.
and Fulgora, yes, and that's going to be fabulous against these starfeet, the mini starfeet, the face huggers as you call them, because those swarm, and having that chain lightning effect, which does 100% damage to each one.
So
Like,
cool.
whoa. Like, that's not a thing. Like in PoE, it's like 30% damage, whatever. Diablo, same kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
100% damage. Oh my god. Anyway, so Tesla towers are amazing, but do we go and spend a lot of time on Fulgora, or do we go straight to Gleba and get some snacks for the biters and the starfeeds and see what else they give us and get cranes? Guess where I'm going first. I need my cranes. Anyway, but yeah, we're gonna get choices, and those choices are meaningful. That also adds to the replayability of this amazing game. Like you said, there's no perfect game, and I think there is. I think we're staring it right in the face. It's Factorio.
It's as
It is
close as you
literally
can
my
get.
Yeah, it's my favorite game of all time, and I've been playing games for decades and decades, all my life, and this is
Yeah,
the best game I've ever played in my life, just because of the replayability, the quality of life. It's just a pleasure to play,
it
and
really
it's
is.
been kind of, I mean, we've had some issues with scheduling, my partner and I, when we're recording um, lunar landings recently, And every time we sit down to play, it's like, oh, this is so comfortable. This is so nice. Like, I miss Factorio. I
Yeah.
really miss it.
Every
It's
other
just
game you're playing, you're
so
like,
nice.
well, it's not bad, but it's also not Factorio.
Well, not every other game, I have to say. I think I try to take other games just as they are to, like you
Yeah.
said, try to figure out what they want to be. I do compare in terms of, this dev probably played Factorio but didn't pay attention to this quality of life. But I don't expect a game to be Factorio because I think that a lot of devs have a lot of great ideas for other kinds of games, like car manufacturer. That's a manufacturing game. It's an assembly line kind of game, but it plays completely differently, and it's really a lot of fun. I highly recommend you check that out. It's really cool. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that
There
one
are some
sounds really
annoying things,
neat.
but it's fun, and so but you look at other games and it's like, okay, dude, why has this not been added yet? This has been in Factorio for 7 years. Why do we not have it in this other game when it's such an obvious quality of life thing? That's the only kind of comparison I usually make.
Yeah, it
Um,
is hard when other games like don't have a pipette and you're like, "What? Why?
yeah, why
How
not?
are
Like
we not
Timberborn.
doing this?"
Why? Timberborn is my number 3 game of all time, and it doesn't have a pipette. How is that a thing? I just don't get it. And
Yeah, it
people have
is
been
still early
asking about it for
access, to be
years.
fair.
But
But
people have
you're
been
right.
asking for years.
Yes, exactly.
And there are mods for it as well, which, the devs can just, easily use that code and just stick it in, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's kind of bewildering to me, like those simple things that make things so much less stressful for a gamer. I don't know why they don't add them a lot of times. It's just weird. But
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it is odd how, certain games focus on certain things, but yeah, I do think they'll have a pipette by the time they release in 1.0. I
I
hope.
hope so. I hope so.
I hope. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap up?
I think that's pretty much it. Unless you want, what is your favorite game of all time?
Oh, I mean, yeah, if I'm
Do
just
you have
picking
one?
one, it's certainly Factorio
No.
for sure.
Okay.
I think Kerbal Space Program ranks pretty high too. It's aged
Nice.
a lot, but like the
Yeah.
modded Kerbal Space Program experience for me, it's so different than Factorio, of course. But I get to make a spreadsheet, I get to do math equations, and I love that stuff. So that one's pretty high
Cool.
up there. But Factorio's got to win.
Awesome. That's cool to hear.
Yeah, and I can't wait for Space Age. It's gonna be so great.
It's coming soon.
I
Coming very
know, 2
soon. Don't
months.
worry. We'll get it in a second. Yeah.
Well, with that, we'll kind of wrap up here. So, to you, the listener, if you'd like to support the podcast, head over to patreon.com/Krydax. Huge thank you to KatherineOfSky. Thank you so much for being here. It's been wonderful. Where can people find you? What all do you have going on out in the world?
Sure. I have a lot of stuff going on. I'm KatherineOfSky, KatherineOfSky on YouTube. And I have also my channel Refreshingly Swedish on YouTube, and that's pretty much where I post a lot of stuff. I do have a channel on Twitch. Sometimes I stream, but I find it better for my migraines just to make YouTube videos. And you can also come to my Discord if you want to chat about Factorio and stuff like that. I am always around and love to share about the different games that I'm playing. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed this.
And do you have a Patreon as well where people can
I
support you?
do. I do have a Patreon. It's KatherineOfSky, and I do have links to that in Discord and YouTube and all of that stuff too.
Awesome. Yeah, well, this has been a pleasure. I'm excited to see, I'll be checking out your videos when Space Age drops. I always love to see your take on things, so that'll be fun. And yeah, maybe we'll have some sort of multiplayer bonanza at some point with a lot of content creators, and we can
Sounds cool. Yeah.
can all build a
I'd be up for
factory.
that.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So the podcast will stream again on the first and third Sundays of the month. So the next one will be September 1st, and I'll update on the Discord, the Krydania Discord, if you guys are looking for updates on the podcast. And if you have any questions, ideas for topics, or ideas for guests, please let me know on Discord. I'm always looking for new ideas for the podcast. And as always, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. Always remember, the factory must grow.
Bye-bye.
All right. So that was the recording. We're still live on Twitch here, but yeah, that was
Woohoo.
great.
That was fun. Yeah, that was really awesome. Cool.
There was a little bit. I'm really sorry. I didn't catch it before we started recording, but your mic was cutting out here and there a little bit. I don't know if it's
Cool.
it's probably a Discord problem,
Yeah, it's
and
definitely a Discord problem.
so that was a little unfortunate. But I don't know. I couldn't think of anything I could do to fix it midstream. So
Oh, that's weird. It just blinked at me.
not for
Okay.
us. Oh, maybe it's my headphones. I guess I'll find out when I listen to the recording. Maybe my headphones are glitching out.
Huh. That's strange.
Okay. Well, I will yeah, so I'll get that MP3 set up and I'll send that over to you, but
Okay.
thank you
Can you
so
also
much
send me
again for hanging
the
out.
video file or put it in like a Google Drive and I'll put that on my channel as well? That would be cool.
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool.
For sure.
Because I'm sure my
Awesome.
people are going to want to know about you and your channel and all that stuff. And I'll send them a link to your. Do you have like a YouTube as well? Yeah, of course
Yeah,
you must.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I've got
Okay. I
I'll
can get that
send that
from
to you
you.
in Discord.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, I'll let you
Well,
get
thank
back
you
to your
everyone
Sunday.
for being here. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Well, that was fun.
It was.
All right. Cool.
Cool. All right, well, I'll see you later, Catherine. Have a good day.
All right. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. All right. And for those of you still hanging out here on Twitch, I will be streaming Shapez 2 later today. So I'm going to head out for now, and I'll see you guys next time.